Hello and welcome to our video series on the resurrection of Jesus. In today's segment, we're going to talk about the significance of the resurrection of Jesus Christ. The resurrection of Jesus from the dead was the foundation upon which every sermon was preached in the New Testament. It seemed to be such a critical factor in all of the apostles' teaching, preaching, and even life itself. But why was the resurrection so significant to these New Testament Christian writers and to us today? There are quite a number of reasons. Firstly, Jesus Christ and his historical resurrection from the dead forms the factual foundation upon which Christianity is based. As the Apostle Paul says, if Christ has not been raised, our preaching is useless, and so is your faith. 1 Corinthians 15:14. Secondly, the resurrection is of crucial practical importance because it completes our salvation. Jesus came to save us from sin and its consequence, that is, the spiritual separation from God. The resurrection of Jesus forms the basis of the believer's union with God. Thirdly, the resurrection also sharply distinguishes Jesus from all other religious founders. The bones of Abraham and Muhammad and Buddha are still here on earth. Jesus' tomb is empty. He is risen from the grave. Jesus is the only person in history who claimed to be God, predicted his resurrection from the dead, and fulfilled the same exactly as he predicted. Finally, and most importantly, the resurrection is significant because if Jesus really rose from the dead, then it validates his claim to be divine and not merely human. In other words, the resurrection of Jesus from the dead is strong evidence that he is indeed God. But why should we believe the fact that if Jesus rose from the dead, he is God? It is obviously not true in general. God could raise anyone he wanted from the dead and it would have no bearing on that person's divinity. The key reason for this fact is that Jesus wasn't just anyone, nor even just a moral teacher. Jesus was a man who made radical claims about himself, including that he was divine. For instance, he forgave sinners, Matthew 9:1-8, Mark 2:1-2, and called himself the Lord of the Sabbath, Matthew 12:1-8, Mark 2:20-28, and Luke 6:1-5, both of which entailed divinity in the Jewish religious context. More directly, Jesus called himself Son of Man, after a divine figure in the prophecies of Jewish scriptures. We see it in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and quotation from Daniel 7:13. There is no mistaking that this was a claim of divinity in the Jewish context, because it's what finally got Jesus crucified for blasphemy. The Gospel of John is conspicuously lacking from these proof texts, but that's only because John skips the indirect stuff and goes straight for statements like, I and the Father are one, John 10:30, and whoever has seen me has seen the Father, John 14:9. Jesus also tells a crowd before Abraham was, I am, John 8:58. Abraham was the father of all Jews, and I am is a reference to the Jewish name of God, and that is why we see an immediate attempt to stone Jesus to death for blasphemy. Our knowledge of Jesus' divine claims helps us to understand the significance of the resurrection. The resurrection of Jesus, if it occurred, would not be a random miracle, but rather God's vindication of Jesus' claim about himself. Thus, due to the unique context of Jesus' life, teachings, and claims about himself, the fact that if Jesus rose from the dead, he is God, seems very plausible. But the skeptic could rightfully ask at this point, but why should we think that Jesus rose from the dead? In the upcoming episodes, we will look at some historical facts concerning the resurrection of Jesus and why the hypothesis that Jesus rose from the dead makes total sense of all the facts, and also respond to some critical and skeptical theories that explain away the resurrection. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching, and God bless you.